There's a story today that lots of the players in the dressing room are not happy with the system that Amorim is implementing, and they want him to change this. What's your take on this? Because some people are suggesting he's lost the dressing room. We put that in the title. That's a suggestion. Others are saying that those players should all go. Some are suggesting that the story is just there to add more toxicity to a club already in troubles. Some are saying it's leaks. Some are saying the leaks aren't true. The media are making it up. What do you boys think? Do you think that...
Let me just put this straight, okay? And excuse my French. If you don't like the system, fuck off. It's time for Man United now to just get a backbone for once in their life. Stop getting this player power bullshit. Whichever player doesn't like the system, the door is open. Close the door on your way out. Take any teammate with you that doesn't like the system. Like if I'm in Ineos's place, I got Ruben Amorim. I want him for the long term. This is gonna be the system. This is the system we're gonna play. Either adapt or piss off. End of discussion. All this I doing like, oh, I don't like the way that we play. Okay, no problem. Open the door, leave, and then someone else will
can do that. Only Terry can tell us if they can do this or not. If Man United have the financial power of Chelsea when they first bought by the new owners, I would say what Osama is saying is 100% the ideal solution. But if Man United don't have the financial power to replace all these players, at the end, players win. That's at the end. Reality is, if Ineos have the guts, have the money to go and replace Maguire, De Ligt, Mazraoui, Dallo, Bruno Fernandes, all the players, I'm just stating names, that don't agree with the system, yes. Buy him the players he wants. Tell all these players. Get him what he wants. But if Man United don't have the money, he has to go. Because you can't be losing the dress.
Well, yeah, look, I agree with that in the sense of if they're not going to build a squad that the manager's capable of getting the best out of, there's no point in having him. I've got the same energy for that as I do with Big Ange at Tottenham, so I agree. I don't necessarily believe the stories. There's been a report that's come out in the last half hour since we've been live. Someone's just DM'd me, a journalist quite close to the club, saying the players are behind him and they're working hard. I don't necessarily believe the story. There may be a player or two, and I actually expect there to be a player or two that isn't happy, because I think some players know that their goose is cooked. I think some of the individuals know. Dalot as an example. I think Dalot knows no matter how hard he works, he'll be gone from the club. He doesn't fit the way we play. So would I be shocked if he told a friend who told a journalist that he's not happy with the system? No. Does that mean that everybody's going to put a mutiny and not work hard and play it? No. I'm not really too worried about that. Obviously, I'm concerned about the finances. There was a super chat earlier that came out today that says, Terry, speak on Ineos making yet more redundancies. And yeah, it's embarrassing. The club are about to make between another 100 to 200 more redundancies. The frustration in this is because when they did the last lot, they said it was for jobs that weren't necessarily needed, and they had to save money. And now they're looking to do it again. The average person that they're making redundant on around 40 grand a year. So you're talking there could be savings between 20 and 40 million pound a year. The problem then is the misinterpretation of everything. So they're saying they need to do this to help fund the first team, but that buys one player. That's just stupid. I don't think people are putting, they're like, well, 1 and 1 equals 2. The redundancies are not so much to be able to physically go out and buy the players. The money is there to buy the players. The problem is that you have to have wriggle room for mistakes, because you are going to buy players that don't work. The interest, people are just saying, let's pay the interest off. That costs pay the debt off for your billions, and that saves £60 million a year in interest. Again, that can't be done. The Glazers won't sanction Ineos paying it off, because Ineos will want a higher percentage of ownership, and the Glazers don't want to give that up. So you can't blame Ineos for that. And even if you do pay the debts off and you save 60 million a year, yes, it would save the jobs. So the Glazers are stopping that, but you can't use it to buy players with. So you have to, the only way to pay right now, the only option to pay the debt down is for money to be saved for other departments and go towards paying the debt off, which will lower the interest payments, which over time gives the club more money. It's a horrible situation that we're in. I'm not happy that people are being made redundant. I don't like the route that we're going down. But what I haven't seen, a lot of the suggestions I see, I go, oh, that sounds good. They pay this or they do that. Then you hear the financial experts understand PSR speak, and they go, well, clubs can't do that. The experts go, well, that can't be done. So it's very difficult for me to I'm angry that we're doing it, and I'm frustrated we're in this situation. But it's hard to say. It's a hard thing for me to complain about because I don't know what the solution is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As in, you all know that I'd love the Qataris to come and buy us tomorrow. I have no problem with that. But also, that's not going to happen. And it was never likely to happen because no one, including the Qataris, ever bid the asking price that the fucking Glazers wanted. And the reason why the Glazers set a high asking price is because they know the club's going to keep growing in value. One, because fans don't want to pull their money out. And it's such a horrible situation. You've got all this turmoil on the pitch. The club's trying to build a squad good enough for a manager who needs a specific group of players. At the same time, the finances are absolutely screwed for 11 years of mismanagement. We're having to do horrible things to members of staff at the football club to save money in areas. The fans don't fully understand it because the mainstream media is not reporting on it accurately. And what I mean by accurately is they're not giving the full. So I heard Simon Jordan talk about it, and obviously he understands finance very well. And so someone called in and said, well, why can't I just pay off the debt? And he explained it. And he just said, well, because PSR doesn't allow that newfound money through paying the debt off to go towards buying players. So it doesn't help you in the transfers. And the Glazers won't allow Ineos to pay the debt off because any money Ineos pay into the club that the Ineos are going to give up ownership for, the Glazers want that money for themselves. So there's nothing that Sir Jim can do about that. He can't just pay the debt off. It's impossible. And what he's not going to do is pay £600 million of debt off with his own money and not own more of the club. And I understand that. It's the club right now. And this is one thing I would say that the United fans, it's why I'm probably not losing my shit as regularly as our games anymore. I just don't feel like being angry right now and adding any more layers of frustration and toxicity helps because it's an absolute. Even I know a little bit about what goes on financially at clubs with my old job and having spoke to these financial experts. But since United have taken over, the amount I've learned more things that I honestly assumed that the Qataris could buy us and pay the debt off and we could just spend. Turns out that ain't fucking true. Turns out, so it's not even as simple as just a billionaire paying our debts off. And I thought it was. It's honestly so frustrating. What would help is if the Glazers would allow, and this is where I think, again, we're going back to the protests. And I see big United accounts talk about, we've got a protest. I'm like, I think protests are great. But if you're all going to go into the stadium afterwards, I think they're futile. But I'll unite with you and promote them. I think Man United, I think we've got to readdress the point. I think we've got to boycott the club financially and threaten the Glazers. We will pull the plug financially if you don't, at the very least, allow the debt to be paid off. And if the debt's paid off, what we first want done with that money is all those members of staff re-employed. Then what we want is the squad to be built. So for me, I'm not even like these stories about losing the dressing room and players not being happy. I'm almost not even that bothered by them. I'm looking at the way we're being run and I'm thinking to myself, there's fucking problems here. There's problems and we're doing horrible things to working class people to fix it. And what I will say, barring people saying billionaires pump the money in, which they can't just do because of the rules, I don't even know what the solution is. Genuinely, I don't know. It's a horrible situation at my club at the minute, I tell you.
There is nothing to do about Man United other than the Glazers have to go. Honest with you, there is nothing to do more. What's his name? Sir Jim Ratcliffe they have less financial, they can't spend the money they want. They can't replace the whole team, and that is the whole point. You need to replace your team. Some of the players you have are not good enough. But that's what happened to him. But that's about it. And in my opinion, I think the problem is Terry, and I'm just going to say this: if it doesn't work with Amorim, I think it will take longer. The more managers you fire, the longer it will take for the next manager to solve. Because now the players have more power, to be honest with you. And I think that.
No, I agree. And look, I'm not saying there are not solutions, but I think that what actually needs to happen is a number of Man United fans need to come together. I think we need to have honest conversations. It's like when I say, I'm not saying don't protest. What I am saying is I don't believe protests by themselves will work with the Glazers or with Ineos, because Ineos, I think, are trying. I think some people think they're as bad as the Glazers, and I understand that view. I'm also very annoyed with a lot of the financial experts because I see them on TV talking about these things and they don't address what the solutions are. They say it's wrong they're doing X, it's wrong they're doing Y. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. Why don't you educate us on what we can and can't do? Because some of the responses I see from people make it sound very simplistic for us to be fixed. And I don't think it's that easy. And if it is, let's have it out. If it is as simple as the billionaires that own us, as in not the Ineos, they can just pay the debts off. If they can just do that and there's no recourse, if they can pump the money in, because what I was told by Kieran Maguire is Ineos can pump in as much money as they want. However, it's deductible under PSR. So even if they pump in the money to keep these staff employed, if we're sailing close to the PSR wind, that money doesn't count towards buying new players. We actually have to make a more profit or less losses. So you have to reduce your outgoings. And the problem is, I understand. Listen, we made a mistake with Ashworth, and that's there. But those mistakes are going to happen when you're building a squad and you're hiring the people to run the club. The mistakes are very expensive compared to everyday normal working people like us. And there has to be leeway in that. You have to have a buffer because you're going to make. I think I read somewhere once that only 50% of transfers are deemed successful, which means you have to have a buffer of money in place. If you want to build a squad over the next 3 years to win the league, you have to have a buffer in place for half your signings not to work. We can't have it where we've got 200 million to spend and every signing needs to bang, because that doesn't happen anywhere. And I'm not saying that Man United fans shouldn't be angry either. I just don't think this is a simple conversation. And people say broke billionaires, fair challenge. But if they're being hamstrung by the rules and they can't just pump money in, we need to have a sensible conversation rather than just being toxic as individuals as well. It doesn't help the club if Man United fans are perpetuating lies that aren't even true about our own club. And I'm not even saying it's their fault. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not even saying it's their own fault, but yeah, it's crazy right now at the club. Genuinely crazy. Look, viewers, we'd love to get your views on everything we've spoken about today. Sorry, super chat came in here. Says Man City fans basically won't criticize Pep. Arsenal fans didn't want Wenger since the Invincibles for nearly 10 years. Yeah, listen, I understand they're not criticizing Pep, but I will.